So let's look at marginal revenue function from marginal revenue, right? When you are given a marginal revenue, just like marginal cost and marginal profit, you can also find out the revenue function from the marginal revenue, right? So let's go into details of how we can find the revenue function from the marginal revenue or given the marginal revenue. So if R is the total revenue, right? If R is equal to total revenue, if R is equal to total revenue function, when the output is X, maybe output equal to X, the marginal revenue, which is in this case we are going to represent it as MR, or some people prefer to represent it as R prime of X. R prime of X equal to the change in R over dx. So integrating with respect to S, we will get back the revenue function, right? So when we integrate this dr dx, we are going to get back the revenue function R, and therefore our R is going to be the integral of this marginal revenue dx, and sometimes they add the constant plus the k, where the k is our constant. Or some people can try to represent that the integral of r prime of x dx plus k all works. So based on this, as I said, our k is our constant. So basically, the constant of integration, which can be evaluated under a given condition, and then here they can give you x equal to 0, the total revenue can be r equal to 0. That means if x represents a particular item, it means that when you have not produced any item to sell, it means that you are not going to also get any revenue. So let's see something. The demand function, right? The demand function, the demand function P, we represent by P is equal to R over X, when X is not equal to 0. So that would be our demand function. So let's take note of it. Let's take a good note of it. So for the marginal revenue, let's consider some points before we end this tutorial, and then we solve example in my next tutorial. So in summary, as I said, the marginal revenue is more or less similar to that of the total profit and then, or the marginal profit and the marginal cost. But here, our marginal revenue is represented by R prime of X, or MR, and is the same as the dr, the change in R over dx. And therefore, since we said differentiation integration the reverse of differentiation, when we want to get our marginal revenue back, or when we want to get our revenue function back, we need to integrate that marginal revenue to get our revenue function. And in this case, you need to introduce the arbitrary constant of integration here, which is what? K. So as I have represented it here, some may consider to represent it as MR, and some may consider to represent R prime of X here. And therefore, when you are asked to find the demand function, of which in this case we are represented as maybe D, let's represent by D because it will be confused with the profits. it will be equal to R, that the revenue function over the X. The revenue function over the X, that will be our demand function. So if we have produced maybe a particular number of items and then we have a very big revenue, and then we divide by that particular number of items and we get a very big demand distant value, it means that the price is actually high, because if the demand is high, people prefer to raise their price. You get me? So even a few items, you are going to get a huge amount of money. You get me? So that's how things has been. So thank you for watching this tutorial, and then see you in my next tutorial for examples and how you are going to get your revenue function from marginal revenue and also your demand function as well.